Good morning. My name is Miss Molly, and I am one of the large group teachers here in Grace Kids. This morning we'll be looking at the book of Isaiah, one of the major prophets in the Old Testament. If you have your Bible, kids, open it up to Isaiah 53:5. That's a verse that we'll be looking at together before we finish up today. Remember last week that Miss Tondi talked about what happened to the northern kingdom of Israel. They sinned against God, and the consequence was that their nation was conquered and their people were taken off into exile, away from their land. The prophet Isaiah warned them about this, and he had the same warning for Judah as well. And the same thing sadly did happen to them. But Isaiah also had a message of hope for them and for us as well. But first, let's look at how God called Isaiah to be a prophet. If you look in Isaiah 6, it says Isaiah was worshiping God in the temple when he saw a vision. That just means that God showed him something that he couldn't really see with his eyes. This is how he describes it. I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, and his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, heavenly beings, each with 6 wings, and they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. Isaiah was awestruck. He was in the presence of a completely holy and righteous God. This was his response. I am ruined. I am sinful. I do not deserve to be in the presence of the King, the great and holy God. Seeing God in all of his holiness made Isaiah realize just how sinful he was. He goes on saying, Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand. With it, he touched my mouth and said, Now that this has touched your lips, your guilt is removed and your sin is wiped away. Isaiah says, Then I heard a voice, the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send and who will go with us? And I said, Here I am, send me. And the voice said, Go. And Isaiah went. He went, and for his entire life, he spent it telling the people what God had to say, speaking God's words as a prophet. You know, Isaiah had to have a hot coal touch his lips for his sin to be removed from him, so then he could speak the word of God. We too need to have our sin removed to be in the presence of a holy God. So maybe we need to talk for a minute about what's sin and why is it such a big deal anyway? Sin is anything we think or say or do that isn't completely good and right. It's when we don't love our neighbor and our family and our brothers and sisters and our friends as ourselves. It's when we don't love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. It's a big deal because it breaks our relationships with each other, and it breaks our relationship with God. It separates us from him because he is holy. And by ourselves, there is nothing we can do to make that right. But God already had a plan to fix that before the beginning of time. See, he had a plan for a Messiah, a Savior to come, that we might be right with God. He told Isaiah about this plan 700 years. Get that, 700 years before the Messiah was even born. He was telling Isaiah, I got this. I'm going to read a familiar verse, Isaiah 9:6. And I want somebody to shout out, telling me, who are we talking about in this verse? For to us a child is born, to us a son is given. Who's that talking about? Jesus. That's right. Jesus is always the answer, right? Jesus. So he didn't just tell Isaiah about the birth of Jesus. He told him about the death and resurrection of Jesus too. Go to that verse that I asked you to look up. Isaiah 53:5. A great exchange happens here, and I don't want you to miss it. Kids, if you have a pencil or a pen, you can even write the things that are, or underline or circle the things that are exchanged. Instead of what we deserve, Jesus gets. Let's read that, Isaiah 53:5. It says, but he, Jesus, was being punished for what we did. He was crushed because of our guilt. He took the punishment that we deserved, and this brought us peace. We were healed because of his pain. Do you hear that great exchange that happens? Jesus takes our punishment, and we receive peace and healing. Now, Isaiah spoke to the Israelites, and he gave them the offer. He said, turn from your sin. You can have peace. You can be right with God. And they rejected that offer. God gives us that same offer today. But each one of us, whether you're this big or whether you're a grown-up, has sin in our lives. The question for each one of us is, what are we going to do with that? Are you going to stuff it down inside and pretend like you're perfect, even though you know you're not and everybody else knows it too? Are you going to distract yourself by playing a video game or some other hobby so you don't have to think about it? What are you going to do with that sin? God doesn't want us to carry it around. Our other option is to give it over, to confess it to Jesus and receive his healing and his peace. Jesus Christ is the only way to receive healing and peace here and now and for eternity. Thanks be to God that he has given us Jesus as a way to be right with him.